to this lesson. Now, in this lesson, we'll be considering a biology BGCSE past paper, and this is paper 3. Now, we're going to be looking at question number 2, and question number 2 states the following. The diagram shows a nephron, which is a kidney tubule, and so here we have this diagram of a nephron, okay? And they're saying for part A, state the names of the parts labeled Q and U. So what is the name of the part labeled U, and what is the name of the part labeled U? That's pointing to the structure on the inside. And what is the name of the part labeled Q? That's this entity, the structure right here. So Q is this entity here, and U is what's inside. Okay, so let's break this down. P is pointing to the structure, or P, I should say, is referring to the structure called the afferent arteriole. U, this entity, the structure in here, is called the glomerulus. This structure here, Q, is called the Bowman's capsule. T points to the proximal convoluted tubule. S is pointing to the loop of Henle, and R is pointing to the collecting duct. And so they asked us to state the names of the parts labeled Q. Well, Q and U, well, Q is pointing to the Bowman's capsule. That's the answer for that one. And U is pointing to the glomerulus. Okay. Okay, so with that being said, let's move on to part B. Now, part B states that glucose is normally reabsorbed from the filtrate in the nephron. State the meaning of the term reabsorbed in this context. Now, in this context, the term reabsorbed means to return. Okay? Now, for glucose is being returned into the blood. So in this context, the term reabsorbed means to return, for glucose is being returned into the blood. Now, part BII asks the question, where in the diagram does this process occur? This reabsorption process, where in the diagram? So it's very important that we do not give the name, but they ask us for where in the diagram. And so we have to give them a letter or letters. So where in the diagram does this process occur? Reabsorption. Well, it's going to happen in the part labeled T and also in the part labeled S. And T is the proximal convoluted tubule, and S is pointing to the loop of Henle, or Henle's loop. Okay, let's move on to the next part of the question. It says, state one possible cause of glucose remaining in the urine. So what is one possible cause of glucose remaining in the urine and not being reabsorbed or returned to the blood? Okay, so we have diabetes. Okay, diabetes. I just say it's a state one possible cause of glucose remaining in the urine. Okay, all right. So we're trying to figure out why would we have why would we have glucose in the blood? That's what I should say. So we're trying to figure out why would we have, or what is one possible cause of us having, if we see urine inside the blood, what is one possible cause of that? And the answer is diabetes. It says here glucose is a type of sugar. It is your body's main source of energy. A hormone called insulin helps move glucose from your bloodstream into your cells. If too much glucose gets into the blood, the extra glucose will be eliminated through your urine. A urine glucose test can be used to help determine if blood glucose levels are too high, which may be a sign of what? Diabetes. Okay, so let's move on to the next part of the question. The next part of the question states the following. State one substance other than glucose that can be found in part P, but would not normally be found in part R. Now, if we notice carefully, P is referring to the afferent arteriole, and in this structure, we have the blood, and R is referring to the R is referring to the collecting duct, and in the collecting duct, we would have urine. So P refers to the arteriole, which contains blood, and R is referring to the collecting duct, which contains urine. Now, so if that's the case, what they're basically asking us indirectly is what is in the blood that is not in urine besides glucose? What is in the blood that is not in urine? And the answer is blood proteins. The answer is blood proteins. Now, the reason why you do not find blood proteins in the urine is because blood proteins are too large to pass through the capillaries. If you find blood proteins in urine, it could mean a number of things. For one, it could simply be because of an infection, or there's some rupture of the tubules or capillaries. But generally, you would not find blood proteins in urine. Okay, so let's move on to a next question. And the question states, name the hormone that regulates the water content of urine and state where it is produced. So we want to name the hormone that regulates the water content of urine and state where it is produced. The name of the hormone that regulates the water content the name of the hormone that regulates the water content of urine is antidiuretic hormone, ADH. This hormone is produced in the hypothalamus, which is a portion of the brain or area of the brain, and this is pointing to the hypothalamus. So the name of the hormone that regulates water content of urine is antidiuretic hormone. Antidiuretic hormone. Moving right along. And we come to the last question of this section. It states, explain why urine is darker yellow on a hot day than on a cool day. Explain why urine is darker yellow on a hot day than on a cool day. Well, it's because more water is used for sweating, okay? And urine becomes more concentrated due to the presence of less water. Okay, so that brings us to the end of this lesson. Hopefully, these solutions are helpful to you, and I'll see you in another video.